Before two people are truly meant to stand side by side, something surprising almost always happens first. It is not instant peace. It is not easy love. It is not the soft movie scene people expect. It is disruption. It is distance. It is the strange moment when meeting someone feels less like comfort and more like a mirror being placed in front of your soul. You feel pulled in, but also shaken. You feel curious, but also exposed. And that is what most people never understand. The connection that matters most does not always begin by making your life easier. Sometimes it begins by turning your inner world upside down. Stay with me, because this is where everything changes. If a bond is truly deep, it does not only touch your heart. It touches your fears, your patterns, your wounds, your hopes, and the parts of you that have been asleep for years. That is why some connections feel bigger than romance. They do not just ask, "Do you like this person?" They ask, "Who are you becoming because of this person?" And the answer is rarely simple. Real connection often enters quietly, then starts rearranging everything from the inside out. What feels like confusion at first may actually be the beginning of awakening. What feels like delay may actually be preparation. And what feels like loss may be shaping a love that can only survive if both people first become stronger on their own. Most people think destined love should feel safe from the first second. They think it should arrive like relief, like the search is over, like the waiting is done. But meaningful connection often begins with recognition, not comfort. You meet someone and something inside you reacts before your mind can explain it. You may not even know them well. You may not trust the feeling yet. Still, something in you becomes alert. You feel seen in a way that is difficult to describe. Not admired, not simply noticed, seen. As if they somehow sense the hidden parts of you that other people pass by without ever touching. And instead of making you feel calm right away, that kind of seeing can unsettle you. It can stir old pain. It can bring old fears to the surface. It can make you wonder why this person, out of all people, feels strangely familiar. This does not always mean they are perfect for you. It does mean the connection is touching something real. And real things do not always feel gentle in the beginning. Sometimes they feel intense because they are pulling truth out of places where you have been hiding it. And that is why a deep connection often brings awareness before it brings ease. This is also why people who are truly meant to affect each other deeply do not always stay together at the start. In fact, many of these connections are separated early. Life pulls them apart. Timing gets in the way, fear gets in the way, old wounds get in the way. One person may still be carrying heartbreak they never fully healed. One may be afraid of closeness and call it independence. One may not yet know their own value, and the other may still be loving from a place of emptiness instead of wholeness. So the distance begins, and it feels unfair. It feels confusing. It feels like something powerful arrived only to disappear before it could become clear. But what if that space is not an accident? What if the pause is part of the design? Some people meet too early, not because the feeling is false, but because the two hearts involved are not ready to carry what the feeling asks of them. So life says, not yet. Grow first, learn first, break first if you must. But do not build something lasting on a foundation that still cannot hold truth. And yes, that hurts. It hurts in a very specific way, because this kind of distance does not just feel like losing a person. It feels like losing access to a version of yourself that only started waking up when they appeared. When a connection is this meaningful, separation often creates a kind of pain that ordinary heartbreak does not explain. It is sadness, yes, but it is also disorientation. It can feel like your inner compass stopped working. You miss them, but it is more than that. Something in your life feels interrupted. Something in you starts asking questions you never had to face before. Why do I fear being left? Why do I overgive just to be chosen? Why do I keep calling uncertainty love? Why do I feel unworthy when someone pulls away? These are painful questions, but they matter, because a connection that changes your life does not just leave you with memories, it leaves you with reflection. This is the part people often mistake for obsession, but true reflection is different. It is not losing yourself in endless fantasy. It is being pushed to look at your life with more honesty than before. You begin noticing patterns. You begin seeing where you abandoned yourself. You start understanding that some of your deepest habits in love were built from fear, not truth. And slowly, quietly, the pain starts doing its hidden work. It begins shaping you. It makes you more aware, more honest, more awake. Do not scroll past this idea too quickly, because this is where the real shift begins. The ache is not always there to destroy you. Sometimes it is there to uncover the parts of you that still need care. Even in silence, something keeps moving. Even when there is no message, no reunion, no clear sign, the connection can still keep working on you from the inside. That is what makes it so hard to explain. Logic may say it is over. Time may keep moving. Your daily life may look normal again, but under the surface, your standards begin to rise. Your boundaries become clearer. The things you once accepted now feel heavy. The attention you once chased starts to lose its shine. You begin wanting depth instead of distraction, peace instead of drama, honesty instead of guessing games. And sometimes you do not even realize when that change began. You just wake up one day and notice that you are no longer willing to repeat old cycles. You stop trying to convince emotionally unavailable people to love you properly. You stop ignoring your own discomfort just to keep a connection alive. You stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility and longing for alignment. This is how deep connections change you. Not always through constant contact, not always through a perfect outcome, sometimes simply through what they awaken. They touch a part of your life that cannot go back to sleep. They make you look at your choices differently. They make you ask bigger questions. They make you realize that love is not only about finding someone, it is also about becoming someone who can live in truth. That is why many people discover they cannot simply replace a connection like this. They try, they meet new people, they fill their schedule, they laugh again, they move forward in all the visible ways, and sometimes they even think they are completely past it. But then a quiet emptiness returns. Not because no one else is good, not because life has stopped, but because the earlier connection touched a layer that surface attention cannot reach. A bond that sparks transformation does not compete with ordinary attraction. It exists on another level. It is not only about liking someone. It is not only about missing someone. It is about the fact that their presence activated growth in you. They became part of a turning point. They became linked to the moment your old self started breaking open. And once that happens, your heart remembers, not always in dramatic ways, often in subtle ones, in moments of quiet, in moments of healing, in moments when you suddenly realize you no longer think the way you used to. That is when you understand the connection was never just about romance. It was about becoming more whole, more conscious, more aligned with yourself. And this is important, so listen closely. The purpose of a deep bond is not always permanent union. Sometimes the purpose is transformation. Sometimes the lesson is the gift. Sometimes the change inside you is the outcome, even if the story does not unfold the way your heart once imagined. While two people are apart, life often teaches each of them very different lessons. One person may need to learn boundaries, to stop saying yes when their soul is saying no, to stop pouring love into empty spaces and calling it loyalty, to understand that love is not proven by self-abandonment. The other may need to learn accountability, to see how silence hurts, to realize that confusion can wound just as much as cruelty, to accept that avoiding emotion does not erase responsibility. One may need to learn self-respect, to stop accepting mixed signals as signs of deep feeling, to stop waiting endlessly for clarity that never arrives. The other may need to learn emotional courage, to sit still with vulnerability instead of running from it, to stop hiding behind distance, pride, or fear. These lessons do not happen all at once. They happen slowly, through real life, through mistakes, through loneliness, through missed chances and difficult realizations. And because both people are changing in separate places, they often cannot see the full picture while it is happening. That is part of the mystery. Growth would be too easy if life explained itself in advance, but it rarely does. It lets you walk through the fog and learn by living. It lets illusions fall on their own schedule. And when those illusions finally break, they take many false beliefs down with them. The belief that love should always be easy, the belief that pain proves devotion, the belief that someone else is meant to complete what you have not healed within yourself. This breaking of illusions is one of the hardest parts of any destined connection, because illusions can feel comforting. They tell you that if someone truly cares, they will never leave. They tell you that if you just love hard enough, things will work out. They tell you that suffering is noble, that waiting proves loyalty, that losing yourself is romantic if the feeling is intense enough. But life strips those ideas away, not to punish you, to free you. It does this through disappointment, through silence, through the nights when you sit alone with your own thoughts and realize how often you have begged for crumbs while calling it fate, through the painful awareness that love cannot heal what you refuse to face within yourself. Slowly, you begin to understand something deeper. Another person cannot save you from your emptiness. They cannot fill every hollow place. They cannot build your identity for you. Real connection begins where self-abandonment ends. That truth can feel harsh at first, but it is also liberating. Because the moment you stop needing another person to complete you, your whole energy changes. You become calmer, clearer, less desperate for outcomes. You stop chasing signs. You stop turning every silence into a spiritual puzzle. You stop waiting for one message to rescue your life. And strangely, that is often when life starts moving again, not because you forced it, because you released the need to control it. There comes a point in this journey when peace begins to replace obsession. It is a quiet shift, but it changes everything. You stop checking, you stop replaying every detail, you stop asking why they did this, why they said that, why they came close only to move away. And in that stillness, something stronger starts to grow. You begin choosing yourself without anger, without performance, without trying to prove anything. You simply become less willing to betray your own peace. This is not bitterness, it is maturity. It is the moment when love stops being a survival tool and becomes a conscious choice. If two people ever find their way back to each other after real inner growth, the energy is different. There is less noise, less ego, less fear of losing, more honesty, more grounded presence, more respect for silence, for truth, for timing, for boundaries. There are no games because the old masks no longer fit. There is no thrill in confusion because both people have already learned what confusion costs. The connection may still be deep, but now it is steadier. It does not need to be dramatic to feel real. It does not need chaos to feel alive. And if they do not return to each other, that does not erase the meaning. It does not make the bond imaginary. Some connections are meant to stay. Some are meant to redirect. But both can be sacred. Both can matter. Both can leave your soul more awake than before. There are also connections that come into your life to break patterns far older than the relationship itself. They do not just expose your personal wounds. They expose inherited ones. The ways you learn to confuse love with sacrifice. The ways you learn to call silence peace because conflict felt dangerous. The ways you learn to stay small, give too much, tolerate too much, and disappear inside relationships because that felt normal to you. A powerful connection can bring all of that to the surface. Suddenly you see how much of your love story was built before you were even aware you were writing it. You begin to notice the old scripts running in the background, the fear of abandonment, the hunger for approval, the habit of earning affection instead of receiving it. And once those patterns are seen clearly, they can begin to end. That is why some relationships shake you so deeply. They are not only about the other person, they are about the generations of pain, fear, and misunderstanding that the connection brings into the light. This is hard work, sacred work, the kind that changes your future because it changes what you will and will not accept from this point on. Keep listening, because this may be the part your heart has been trying to understand all along. Some people arrive not just to love you, but to help end a cycle that would have followed you for years. Other deep connections awaken emotional depth that you forgot you were capable of feeling. They pull you out of numbness. They remind you that your heart is still alive under all the defenses you built to survive disappointment. You feel more, you notice more, you care more deeply. Even if the connection does not last in the form you wanted, it leaves you more open than before. And that openness matters. Because a closed heart may feel safe, but it also keeps real life at a distance. Some people come into your world and change your entire direction. Because of them, your standards shift, your choices shift, your priorities shift. You stop settling for half love and half truths. You stop calling emotional hunger passion. You start paying attention to your nervous system, to your intuition, to the difference between intensity and safety. That is not a small gift. That can alter the path of your whole life. Their role may never have been to remain forever. Their role may have been to prepare you for what comes next. And that does not make the connection lesser. It makes it meaningful in a different way. Sacred things are not always permanent. Sometimes their power comes from what they awaken, not how long they stay. Destiny does not always protect comfort. It protects potential. It will let an illusion break before it lets your soul slowly disappear inside something that looks like love but keeps pulling you away from yourself. And only later, with distance, do you understand how much staying the same would have cost you. Again and again, one truth keeps returning. When two people are truly meant to meet at a deeper level, they are often required to grow apart before they could ever stand together in a healthy way. They must lose fantasy, they must face shadow, they must see their wounds, their habits, their escapes, their fear of responsibility, and the places where they still expect another person to heal what only inner work can heal. This season is not a sentence, it is preparation. Life uses it to refine each person, to teach boundaries that protect energy instead of pushing love away, to build self-respect that does not depend on being chosen by someone else, to show what honest love looks like when it is not mixed with panic, chasing, or self-erasure. Here you learn that being wanted means little if you are not also respected. You learn that being chosen means little if you are not also safe. You learn that loving deeply should never require disappearing from your own life. These lessons do not arrive as quotes. They arrive as lived truth, through tears, through stillness, through long stretches of uncertainty that force you to become stronger from the inside. And once that growth begins, the next step becomes clearer. Sometimes it leads to reunion and sometimes to redirection, but either way you do not remain who you were before. The connection leaves a mark, not always a wound, sometimes a wisdom, sometimes a deeper spine. If you are hearing this and thinking of someone, let this settle gently inside you. You do not need to chase what is truly aligned. You do not need to beg clarity out of confusion. You do not need to shrink, perform, or prove your value just to keep a place in someone's life. What is right for you will not ask you to live in constant anxiety. It will not feed on mixed signals. It will not reward your self-betrayal. Real love may ask for honesty. It may ask for courage. It may ask for patience and growth and a level of self-awareness that feels uncomfortable at first. But it will not ask you to abandon your dignity. It will not ask you to silence your truth. It will not keep you trapped in endless uncertainty while calling that depth. And if a person does not return, that is not always a failure. It does not mean the connection had no purpose. It may have been a teacher, a turning point, a force that prepared you to recognize healthier love when it arrives. Not every meaningful bond is meant to become a lifelong relationship. Some are meant to wake you up. Some are meant to redirect you toward a fuller life. Some are meant to show you the gap between what you settle for and what your spirit actually needs. Nothing is wasted when it truly changes you. Not the tears, not the longing, not even the confusion. And when people who have truly done the work cross paths again, something feels different in a way words barely capture. It is quieter, cleaner. There is less tension in the body, less fear in the mind, less ego trying to win or defend. You are not standing there asking how to impress them or how to keep them. You are simply present, honest, real, and that changes the whole atmosphere. There is more listening, more clarity, more ease in silence, more respect for timing and truth. The connection does not have to shout to prove it is important. It simply feels grounded, mature, awake. But even if that reunion never happens, the meaning remains. Because the deepest lesson was never possession. It was transformation. The real gift was not just the hope of being together. It was the way the connection showed you yourself. It revealed your blind spots. It sharpened your boundaries. It taught you where your healing still waited. It made you more conscious of what love is and what it is not. That alone can change a life. So if you are in the middle of distance, confusion, or silence right now, breathe. Let the process do its work. Let what is false fall away. Let what is real become clearer over time. You are not being asked to force destiny. You are being asked to become ready for truth. And sometimes that readiness is the very thing that finally leads you home, whether home is another person, a new path, or the strongest version of yourself you have ever known. So here is the deeper truth. A powerful connection is not measured only by whether it stays in the exact form you wanted. It is measured by what it awakens, what it heals, what it reveals, and how deeply it returns you to yourself. Some people enter your life to walk beside you for years. Some arrive for a season and leave behind a new soul, a new standard, a new way of loving. Both can be real, both can matter. The story does not become meaningless just because it changed shape. Sometimes what feels like rejection is alignment in disguise. Sometimes what looks like an ending is actually life clearing a path you could not yet see. Destiny rarely hurries. It does not explain itself on demand. It asks for trust in the dark. It asks for patience when you want answers now. It asks for surrender when every part of you wants control. But one day, often much later, you look back and see the pattern with stunning clarity. You see how every silence exposed something, how every delay matured something, how every heartbreak taught something. And you realize that what was meant for you was never trying to break you. It was trying to wake you. If this touched something real in you, hold on to that. Not the fantasy, the truth. The truth that love should deepen your self-respect, not destroy it. The truth that growth often comes before peace. And the truth that what is truly aligned will never require you to lose yourself just to be loved.